Law number 2. Never put too much trust in friends. Learn how to use enemies. Back in 2016, a rapper turned podcaster, Joe Budden, left a review for Drake's album on his podcast, which was less than favorable. Drake, who was a big fan of Joe Budden, didn't like the review and proceeded to record a song called No Shopping with rapper French Montana. Drake sent a bunch of subliminal disses towards Joe Budden, in which he responded with his own song, Making a Murderer. Joe Budden proceeds to release more songs aimed at dissing Drake, but Drake didn't respond to him, at least not directly. He proceeds to diss Joe Budden on stage at his Summer 16 tour, where he tells the crowd he should have brought Joe Budden up to do Pump It Up One Time, which is a famous song that Joe Budden is known for. After a bunch of diss records from Joe Budden with no response, some OVO enthusiasts running up on Joe Budden and then being chased, which eventually became a meme, and the fact that the battle was looking one-sided, Drake reached out to Joe Budden via Instagram DM and told him that he'll bet him $10,000 that he can release 25 diss records by the time of his Madison Square Garden show, in which Drake actually invited Joe Budden and anybody he wanted to bring with him. This was a very strategic move by Drake because as Joe Budden released more diss records and it get covered by more publications, everybody got their mind on Drake, who is currently on tour, which means that more people are going to come out to the show and he's going to make more money. It was also important to note that if Joe Budden would have took up Drake on his offer, it was super easy for Drake to spin that narrative if people actually seen Joe Budden at the Madison Square Garden show. This was important because it also spins the narrative and makes Drake look like less of an aggressor and more of the peacemaker, which makes him look good in the public's eyes. Drake knows how beneficial it is to keep himself on everybody's mind. So he knows that if he uses Joe Budden to actually diss him, which is material that Joe Budden have to waste, it will benefit him more than it will benefit Joe Budden because Joe Budden didn't have anything going at the time except his podcast. Summary. Don't put too much trust in friends. Learn to use enemies. Drake made a big mistake in putting his trust in people like Meek Mill and DJ Drama, which end up creating a narrative about him using a ghostwriter. Drake learned later in his career that you're gonna have enemies and you can't be friends with everybody. So it's better to use your enemies to further your own goals than have your enemies further their goals using your name. Reversal. Never let someone inadvertently use your platform to further their own goals. In this day of social media, a lot of people attack bigger people to get a name and to get clout. The mistake that a lot of artists make in this day and age is to actually respond to someone smaller. All you do is put a spotlight on that smaller entity or smaller artist and say that they're worth responding to. Drake used this masterfully against Joe Budden because even though Joe Budden said bad things about Drake's album, Drake knows that if he attacks Joe Budden is characteristically emotional, so he's gonna respond. And even though Drake is the biggest artist in the world, Drake always need those eyes on him, especially when he's on tour, to fill out more seats and to have that credibility from the hip-hop world. Make sure to tune in next week Monday at 12 p.m. noon Eastern Time for another video on the laws of power.